Hi, I'm Lisa Bedford, the Survival Mom. Are you ready for another book review? This one is by a brand new author, Richard Stephenson, and it is called Collapse, America Will Fall. It has a striking red and black cover, and a friend recommended this book to me. At the time, it was on Kindle for free, and I downloaded it, and I have to say from the first page, maybe the first 2 pages, it really caught my attention. The characters were so riveting that at times I literally couldn't put the book down. In fact, I was about halfway through the book, woke up one morning at 6 in the morning, and I decided the kids would just have to fend for themselves because I was going to finish that book and find out what was happening and what was going to happen to the various characters. First of all, the book centers around 3 characters: Howard Beck, Richard Dupree, and Max Harris. All 3 of these men are interesting and very different from each other. The book opens with Howard Beck, who is a much older man, probably in his 60s or 70s, and he is a Howard Hughes type billionaire recluse. And not only is he a billionaire and a recluse, but he is quite the amazing inventor. And he has brought technology so far that he actually has a friend / manservant / overseer named Hal, who is just an artificial intelligence. And the character of Hal was interesting, and all of the capabilities that Hal has will keep you entertained throughout the book. That veers slightly into the realm of science fiction, but because the rest of the book is so not just interesting, but it is the events that happen are so possible that it makes Hal seem like he is possible too. And maybe we all might have our own Hal at some point in the future. Howard Beck has Asperger's, and that has caused him to become this recluse, but also when he does encounter people, he has a difficult time relating to them and trusting them. So Howard immediately had my interest. He is the character you get to know first. The second character, Richard Dupree, we learn is a former Navy SEAL, and he has ended up in a federal prison through a chain of events that make you really feel for the guy. I mean, he is a good and decent man. He has survival skills to manage no matter where he is physically located. And in his prison, he has drawn the attention of the Aryan Brotherhood. And he soon finds himself enmeshed with them because I guess in a prison that is that harbors that level of violent criminals, that you need to form some kind of alliance somewhere. And so that is where we find Richard when the book opens. I really liked the character of Richard Dupree. I thought he was interesting, very, maybe not relatable to me, but realistic. He was he was a loving dad, and he was a loving husband trying to do his best, not just for his family, but for his country. And he finds himself in a chain of events, and he ends up where he ends up. You'll have to read the book to find out how he gets there and how and why he gets there. The third character we meet is Max Harris, and Max is a burned out, painkiller addicted chief of police in a small rural town located near Houston. And Max has decided that he is just going to lay low and do the minimal work possible, drawing no attention to himself until he can finally retire. And so his goal is really just going to work, punching the clock every day, crossing his fingers that nothing goes wrong, that he might have to actually manage, some dangerous scenario or whatever. But when Max learns that a killer hurricane has Houston and his town set right as a direct hit, he realizes that if anyone is going to save his town, it's going to be him. And this event brings the hero out in Max. And that is one thing that makes him relatable, because I think a lot of us, we may have not been faced with life and death situations. Maybe we have not ever faced a real worst case scenario. And maybe you have wondered, I wonder how I would react if it were up to me to protect my family, if it were up to me to make sure that others were safe and secure. And that's what Max does. He really rises to the occasion, and we come to respect and admire this character as well. The book is structured in a way that we meet each of these characters individually. And on the Collapse Amazon review page, I saw that there were some people out there that just couldn't keep track of, sorry, I don't mean to be sarcastic, couldn't keep track of 3 characters. It was just too much for them. But I found that made the book move along quickly. And just as I was really getting into the events that Howard was experiencing, for example, then it would stop. And I would feel like someone had just taken away my lollipop. But the next chapter featured Richard, or might feature Max. And so then I was caught up in that second story character line. And I felt that that plan worked very, very well. Richard Stephenson is a brand new author. This is his first novel. And to write a novel of that complexity, I think speaks well for his natural writing ability and gives me even more reason to look forward to the sequel to this book. The characters, again, they're believable, they're riveting. From the very first few pages, I think that you will want to keep turning those pages. But the plot itself is interesting and, again, realistic. Other than the character of Hal and maybe some of the slightly science fiction inventions that we learn about, here and there, I thought that everything that was occurring in this book actually could happen. The book takes place during the Second Great Depression, a time in which most Americans do not have work. Gasoline is $15 a gallon, and by and large, most people are destitute. And I thought one point that the author made that was interesting was that the RV sales, the RV industry was going gangbusters, because some people, when they lost their home, all they could afford was a newer used RV, and that's where they made their home. So I thought, again, that was realistic. Well, that could happen. Maybe it is happening in some parts of the country. As though the Second Great Depression isn't enough, Richard Stephenson decides to pile on his characters even further by putting the country into a devastating war with the Empire of Iran. Again, that is not out of the realm of possibility. And so the Empire of Iran has amassed great power, great wealth, and an enormous standing army. And they have their sights set on expanding not just from the Middle East, but into Europe. And the President of the United States is fearful for what their plans, for what this evil empire's plans might be where America is concerned. And because of the destruction, financial and economic destruction wrought by the Second Great Depression, there is very little money for the United States to spend on national defense and its military. Now, prior to the book's opening, a Category 6 hurricane hit Florida, and the state of Florida is devastated. We learned that 1 million or more people have died. And at one critical moment in the president's, as we get to know the president just a bit, he has to make the decision where to put the remaining resources of America. Does he send as much military force and might to fight against the Empire of Iran? Or does he utilize those resources right here at home, where the people have been in Florida have been waiting and waiting for some kind of help to arrive? And it never really arrives. So, about 2/3 of the way through the book, I think, another devastating event hits. It's not like, the Depression, $15, a gallon gas, the war, this hurricane that eventually does hit the Houston area, and now there's something else. And when I got to that part, I'm not going to give that one away, but I was like, come on, Richard Stephenson, have some mercy on your characters. But he doesn't. So, the characters, the main characters, their plot lines just kind of weave, toward an eventual meeting of the three. Max, the police chief, Richard Dupree, the felon, former Navy SEAL, and Howard Beck, the billionaire recluse, eventually do meet towards the end of the book, and that storyline actually begins something new that we will learn about in the sequel to Collapse. I recommend this book. I give it 5 stars. I have read a lot of survival prepper type fiction lately, and not every book out there by a new author or an emerging author is of the same quality. And that's why this one was such a nice surprise. The author, Richard Stephenson, in an interview told me that he had never thought of writing a book before. In fact, he works in law enforcement, and most of the writing he has done has just been writing reports at work. And yet for him to have produced this 454 page book, you can see that it is solid. The book has a very satisfying storyline, and the conclusion, even if Richard never did write a sequel, the book would still be worth reading and enjoying. When I got the book, as I mentioned, it was free on Kindle. Right now it's priced at $2.99, definitely worth $2.99. And if you have to have a hard copy, then it is a little over $15 right now on Amazon. Now, if you are looking for something along the lines of Patriots by James Rawls, something that is going to combine like a prepper handbook with a novel, you're not going to find that here. There really isn't a whole lot of survival. It's not really a survival manual masquerading as a novel. This is just a plain old good story novel that you're going to want to read and enjoy. So as far as like how-tos or a tutorial on food storage or something like that, that isn't what this book is about. It's just a good story. And I think that we all enjoy a good story every once in a while. So I want to say kudos to Richard Stephenson for a terrific first book. Collapse, America Will Fall is well worth the money, whether you buy it in Kindle or in paperback. And again, a 5-star read. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, I'm Lisa Bedford, The Survival Mom. You can catch me at my blog, thesurvivalmom.com. And also look for a brand new project that we are launching. And it is something I'm very excited about, the Survival Mom Radio Network. It's a network of all women hosts. And our topics cover everything from homeschooling to homesteading to survival. We even have a canning expert on board. As of right now, we have 12 hosts, including myself. So look for that. And when my podcast launches, the Survival Mom Radio Hour, one of my first guests is Richard Stephenson, author of Collapse. Take care, and I will see you the next time around.